Hello, everyone, and welcome back to On the Curbs IndyCar Edition. I'm your host, Nate Woods, and I am joined once again by my co-host, Mr. Thiemo Albers-Daly. Thiemo, how are we doing?
Recovered, just about recovered more than you have. That's fair to say. I woke up on Monday morning surprisingly refreshed. I was not expecting it after such an enthralling and long Sunday, but I'm good. You were less good, but that's just more
Oh.
to emotional devastation and damage that I'm surprised hasn't hospitalized you.
Yeah, we had the Indy 500 this past weekend, and we're here to talk at length about it. Um, was obviously there at the race with my daughter, and got home. Obviously, a long day. I mean, uh, for people that have never been to the Indy 500 before, it is a very, very long day. You leave for the track at 8 o'clock in the morning. You sit in traffic for an hour to get to your parking spot. And then there's all the pre-race pomp and circumstance. And then you have the race, which in this case, a little bit longer than usual, with a couple red flags thrown in there, short ones, albeit, but still, you wait for all the post-race stuff. And then, we talked about weather all day, for the 2 weeks leading up to the race. And finally, 30 minutes after the race is over, watching victory circle happen. And you could feel the cold front of the storm come in. And I looked at my daughter, I'm like, if we leave now, we might be able to make it back to our car before it starts downpouring. And we made it right. We got to the car, and then you sit in traffic for an hour and a half getting home. And
At least you're
so
not wet.
at least we weren't wet. Um, so for a 3 hour long race, you are moving and sitting in traffic and being excited, being devastated, being emotional for 12 hours. And you get home just in time to watch the replay of the entire Indy 500 on TV in Indianapolis. So then you get to experience it all over again. And then the next day is the victory banquet, which comes on at night. So I took advantage of the day off and decided to do a bunch of landscaping.
Yeah, that seems a sensible decision to do there on
Yeah.
top of that long day you just had.
Yeah. So, uh,
If Nick falls asleep during this episode, you'll understand
you
why. He's
understand. I
just
mean,
run out of power.
yeah, we do record these uh, at 6 o'clock in the morning, Indianapolis time. So,
I've,
uh,
I've, I've tried giving him other times of the day, but he insists on 6 a.m.
so, but I'll probably finish my 24-ounce coffee before the end of the episode. I'm sure.
Before the weekend, though, we did have one bit of non-IndyCar news, but obviously reverberated throughout the motorsport world, which
Yes.
was the sudden passing of Kyle Busch, which we were saying kind of it felt like it came out of nowhere, especially as because the previous Sunday, I think we got the news on the Thursday, the previous Sunday he'd been in the NASCAR race, the previous Friday, so less than a week before he won the Craftsman Truck Series race.
Yeah.
And that was on top of a lengthy and very successful career in everything NASCAR, really. He won all the important races, two championships as well, I think, in that series, never mind everything else he did. So big loss for the sport.
Yeah. Back to back Brickyard 400 winner here in Indianapolis. Um, this was a tough one for me. I was around when I was, a big fan of NASCAR when we lost Dale Earnhardt,
Mm.
and I think this one, although it wasn't a racing incident, it's unusual that we lose a driver to a non-racing incident. Uh, and this one, this one hit especially hard for me. This is the uh, uh, exact same way my grandmother passed away 5 years ago. So this was a really a difficult one for me to kind of contemplate, I guess. I don't know the best word for it,
No,
but
I
yeah,
think I
it
know what you
really
mean, though.
was.
You have a thing where when it's a motorsport driver, I was saying this the other day that you get in the car and there's that inherent risk. Everyone just kind of quietly accepts that as a possibility that you won't come back from the race. Then when something non-racing related gets you instead,
Yeah.
it somehow doesn't make getting killed in a race better, but it just somehow it gets you in a much different way that somehow makes it worse in some respects because you go, you've managed to do all of this and survive all of that, and then this thing gets you instead, and it just throws everyone off kilter because it's the one sort of thing you're not prepared for because you're so prepared for, like you say with Dayle and Hart, for example, it was always a possibility. So even though it was devastating, it was, part of the contract that you sign as a racer.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's thrown a lot of people off because again, it just kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah. It really was just kind of uh, just a odd thing that happened. And I likened it a lot to when, and this is a name that you probably are not familiar with. We had a driver, his name is Tim Richmond, in NASCAR the back in the 80s, and uh, passed away. He drove, pretty much drove until he couldn't drive anymore.
Hmm.
Suffered from he had AIDS, and actually had uh, had two Indy 500 starts in 80 and 81. Was our rookie of the year in 1980. So, um, uh, but to lose a driver off track just feels different. And
Hmm.
it was a really touching ceremony before the NASCAR race at Charlotte, and then of course we had um, at the 500 we had the lap 18 tribute to him, which was emotional for everybody in the crowd. I can tell you that. That was
Price at all on
so
that one.
so yeah. So as emotional it was, we with auto racing, whether we lose a driver on or off the track, it
The show
it
goes on.
helps to pay tribute, but those drivers know, like you said, they kind of know what the contract is, and the sport marches on. And we were treated to a an amazing race, I think, on Sunday.
Yeah, I was having this debate with another IndyCar friend of mine that between this and Phoenix as to which was the better oval race so far this season, and he was very much in favour of the 500 for many obvious reasons. I
Mhm.
think the ending alone would be enough to justify it. But for me, I was going back and forth between that things, and the only reason for it was just because of the stop-start nature of the Indy 500. It felt like every time we were just getting into a nice groove, something would happen and throw it off kilter, and then the
Yeah.
gaps were just a bit too long for my liking between it to it didn't lose momentum, but it just switched the momentum in such a different way that you just had to have your head on a swivel the whole time. And prime example of that, I felt like was the ending. You're so focused on Malukas and Rosenqvist that you could miss third, fourth, and fifth and their photo finish
Yeah.
coming across the line, and you don't even realize about that till afterwards, maybe because you're just so absorbed with what's going on here. So either way, it was a heck of a race, and so many. I mean, there's always so many storylines, right, throughout the entire month of May. But then in the 500 itself, you have, like you were saying, there's everything to go with the pre-race pomp and traditions and going through all of these sorts of things. And then you get through the actual race where the whole other box of storylines opens up that you've got to play with, and you've got no idea where any of it's going.
Yeah. The, you know, if you remember back to our episode for the 500 last year's race was not a good race. Not just because, not because of the winner, but the whole race just felt off. The whole, the caution flags were falling in weird spots, and it just was a hard race to keep yourself entertained with. And this race was the exact opposite.
Hmm.
This being my 36th Indy 500 I've been to in person. Um,
Were you
I'm
one
having a
of
hard,
the 1,000 people at the track who's aiming towards having that 50-year ticket?
well, so they only give those up to season ticket holders.
There.
You have to buy your ticket from the track in order to get your name in the program and get on the news and so
Never mind.
I haven't had season tickets in 15 years, so but you mentioned the photo finish between Scott McLaughlin and Award and Armstrong, but what also is being left out of the conversation is the photo finish for sixth and seventh, Rinus
Mm.
VeeKay and Alex Palou being within, two thousands or 200ths of a second of each other.
Which
And
again, Palou, you're potentially a little bit surprised that he's there just because it's unusually far back for him. But also, you're
yeah,
surprised VK's there, right? Because it's so far up from where
right,
you normally
yeah,
expect him. You're like,
yeah.
you're going to have two
Well,
drivers for sixth and seventh. You go, I've got questions.
so the top seven drivers finished within 1 second of each other. I don't know.
Madness.
I can go back through the records and see, you know, how many cars are within 1 second at the end, but I don't think that there's ever been seven cars within 1 second of each other. Now, a lot of that was due to the fact that we had a one lap shootout. Of course, everybody's going to be close
Sure.
together, still within one lap, but whew, that was an amazing finish. I,
Yeah.
I've heard some people talking about how they did not like the pacing of the race in the first half when we had all these lead changes where nobody necessarily wanted to run out front. And, we ended up with what, 70 lead changes in the race,
Hmm.
which was a record.
Record breaking. Yeah.
And so a lot of that was due to, obviously these guys didn't necessarily want to run out front because you could save a little bit of fuel by running behind the guy in
I
front of you.
enjoyed it though because it
Oh,
just
absolutely.
the constant it felt like yeah no one wants to be in front but everyone also does want to be out in front because it's one race you want to be seen leading at some
Right.
point
Yeah.
and that 70 lead changes as you say including what is technically a lead change at the end as they
Right.
go across the line right it's spread across 14 drivers that
Mhm.
took part in the race so not like
Well,
almost half of the people who took part led at some point.
and the, that's 70 lead changes at the line. That doesn't include the lead changes that were on the backstretch that
Well,
got
yeah, that was I was
repassed.
because they were having the clock tick, not the clock ticking, but the time the counter ticking about how many lead changes we're having because it kept track of the amount of lead changes in comparison to others in history, and watching them go back and forth at that point, and then I realised, damn, none of these actually count because it's over
Right.
16th and 17th at this point in
Yeah.
time. I go, oh yeah, damn. That's
Yeah.
I hope we get there now.
Yeah. If somebody wasn't entertained by that race, I think they need to find a new discipline of racing
What a
to
way to
watch.
bookend the weekend, right? You have pinnacle of motorsport at the start with the Weenie 500, and then you get that to end it, and you go, if neither of these does anything for you, we don't need. There's nothing that will. You've
Yeah.
got the two ends of the spectrum there.
Well, we didn't talk about it, you and I, but we also had another record broken at the Speedway on Friday. The world's fastest monster truck record was broken.
I missed that. I won't lie to you.
I'll send you the video after the episode. Uh,
So, again, so much happening, and yet and yet we're focused on one thing in particular that happens quicker than the blink of an eye.
yeah, yeah. Um, I had seats directly across from Felix Rosenqvist's pit stall, which
Hmm.
was pretty special. Um, and so to get to see that celebration with his team after the checkered flag was pretty neat. Not the first time that I've gotten that direct view of the celebration. In 2021, when Helio Castroneves won, he climbed the fence right in front of me, which was pretty awesome too. Uh, but yeah, I mean, as as great of a finish as it was, there were a few drivers that I was a little sad for, we'll say.
I
David
think
Malukas
every
being
team
one
has
of
at
them.
least one of
Yeah,
those in
yeah.
this race,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
But so Dave Calabro, who's the announcer out at the Motor Speedway, um, when we were in that final red flag, he comes on the PA system. He's like, "All right, let's have a cheer for who you think is going to win in the next couple laps." And he's like, "Who thinks it's going to be?" And it was well, Marcus Armstrong was leading going into that caution into that red flag. Like, who thinks it's going to be Marcus Armstrong? And people are kind of like, "Yeah, yeah, woo, yeah, okay." So kind of kind of loud. Then they like, "Okay, who thinks it's going to be Felix Rosenqvist?" And um, there wasn't a whole lot of cheering. And then it was David Malukas. They said, "Who thinks David Malukas is going to win?" And the crowd went absolutely nuts. And so I was not alone in being sad that David didn't
From a
win.
Bond people.
Yeah,
There's a
it'll
whole
come
lot of
for him.
bonding
And
going on that day.
and I'd say, at the victory banquet, with they interview every driver, comes up and gets to give a little speech. It's every single one of them not only congratulated Felix Rosenqvist, but also mentioned Dave Malukas, and like, "Yeah, your time's going
Mm.
to come. We all know that you're going to be a champion someday. We all know that you're going to win this race someday. It's going to come for you." And so the drivers recognize that David is the I don't want to say heir apparent to the Alex Palou
Hope not
dynasty,
just for the
but
sake of I don't need more of that dominance, but in terms of being someone that we're still talking about as probably a multiple champion, but over like a few years separating them, but always there,
yeah,
always in the front hunt, always in the
yeah,
fight. And he's already proving that this year, right? So
yeah,
it's maybe third time's lucky. 2027 is the time for it.
yeah. Well, to jump into the actual race itself, a lot of times we do the lap by lap race recap. It's going to be
This is
impossible to
not one
do.
of them.
This cannot be one of them. There was just, when you have
Too
70
much.
lead changes and different pit strategies, and all of these accidents, I think we've agreed that it's just going to be better to do team by team analysis today. So,
Better for everyone involved.
yeah. Um, Team Penske. We've already talked about uh, Dave Lucas finishing second um, after starting on the front row. Scott McLaughlin pulling up third place finish after
Hmm.
starting ninth, and then unfortunate day for Joseph Newgarden. Just kind of had a mental lapse, I think, on one of those last restarts, and got too low and ended up bringing home 28th.
Yeah, Driver now has what back-to-back Indy 500 wins and back-to-back DNFs at the Indy
Yeah,
500. So not necessarily the record he wanted to go with the first record, but that's the way it happens. And I was thinking, how the hell do I sum up my thoughts and feelings for this team? And I just ended up writing, "How can one man be so happy for three men and yet so heartbroken?"
yeah,
You know, Newgarden up to that point was on an absolute charge through the field. He was
yeah,
incredibly impressive. That serial killer that he gets branded with, thanks to the IndyCar advert rather at the start of the season, if nothing else, was on full display. So for him to then just lose it like that was such a shame because I don't know if he would have won or not, but it would have been just so much fun to
yeah,
have him in that mix at the end. McLaughlin, probably the one I'm least heartbroken for just because of last year. I said to you when we talked about qualifying, I just wanted to make it to lap one this year. But then
yeah,
to see him not only do that, but then to get that damn close to a win and to get P3 by that smaller margin as well was, I think he said it best, it's Christmas, but not everyone gets presents. And it felt like that. And then Malukas, yeah, this is more your territory than mine, but I thought he was a very deserving winner, but I wasn't mad about him being beaten either. I think it's I've got nothing against Alex Palou. He's a really nice guy and he's just incredible in the car. But I think it was best for the sport that he didn't win a
mhm,
back-to-back Indy 500. The title is
yeah,
already shaky at the best of times where he's
yeah,
involved.
yeah,
So it's nice to see different race winners. And I think for Malukas, whilst devastating in many ways, it serves his bigger story a lot better as well. I think
Mhm.
it's a way of you when because like you say, everyone at the banquet was saying how we know you're going to be a future champion one day and you're going to have a lot of success. I think it's better sometimes when that success doesn't come immediately, that you have that potential for just the right amount of time and then it happens.
Mhm.
I think about Leclerc trying to win his home Grand Prix. He failed so many times, but
Yeah.
then when you got it in
Yeah.
2024, everyone went
Yep.
nuts. And we knew it was going to
Yes.
happen one day. We had to wait longer than we would have liked, but it made it that much more satisfying. And I think if he then pulls it off next year or the year after, everyone's going to go. So you think they were happy now trying to get him to push him over the line with the cheering? They're going to go nuts in 27.
Yeah. They uh uh with Malukas coming that close, we saw how devastated he was after the race in those interviews. And I saw a local media post on Facebook at like 10 o'clock at night on Sunday. He was at the local hot dog restaurant right down the street from my house. Like he decided he wanted to go have hot dogs after the race. I'm like, oh, that's one way. Eat your pain away, I guess. But I, I you would appreciate
Not the
that
way I thought that would.
being such a weenie 500 fan,
You
celebrate
beat
a
me
loss
to
like
it there.
that.
You
Yeah.
beat me to it. I was thinking that wasn't the way I was expecting that to bookend the weekend, but I'm glad it found a way.
Well, I was at first I was like, who goes for hot dogs after the Indy 500? And then I realized, he's a Chicago kid. Of course
We
he's
also
going to eat.
think, you know what?
Of course he's going to eat
You're
at
in a state of
Portillo's.
turmoil right now. You do what you need to do.
Yeah. Of course he's going to go eat at Portillo's. Well, that's our Midwest hot dog restaurant chain. So of course that's where he wants to go to eat. So I thought that was kind of fun. But yeah, I mean, he's definitely going to win one of these days, no doubt in my mind. And Scott McLaughlin looked good too. I mean, if if those two cars would have touched in any significant way, Rosenqvist and Malukas, Scott McLaughlin would
Hmm.
have been right there in the catbird seat, and that could have very, very easily been his victory. And you don't want to see a race end like that, but it could have been a very real
If you could have
possibility.
any driver to be there to pick up the pieces, you'd be hard pressed to find someone who didn't like it being Scott McLaughlin.
Of course, with the top seven finishers being within 1 second, an accident
Hmm.
between one and two probably could have taken out more than
I
just
was also thinking that
those
as you were
two.
saying, and going, who is in eighth?
We could have seen Kiffin Simpson pull one out.
Oh,
So,
imagine.
yeah, one thing I did note was uh, Newgarden had a boot on his left foot at the victory banquet,
Hmm.
and it was the opposite boot. It was the matching boot to Alexander
Russell.
Rossi's boot. So that was
Well, good to know they come in pairs.
they got a 2-for-1 discount, right?
Exactly.
Arrow McLaren. Um, I think this was an okay day for them with Award finishing fourth. Obviously he would have liked to have finished further up, but um, listening to him post race, I think he kind of recognized that he um, did not have the car to win,
Hmm.
and that fourth place was a satisfying finishing spot for him.
I'm saying not having the car to win, but still finishing, less than a second behind the race winner is it's such a
Yeah,
weird, just it's such an IndyCar thing.
yeah.
But yeah, a friend of mine was asking me the weekend before, the 500. Oh, what do you think Pato's chances of winning are this year? Do you think this year could be the year of? There's always a chance. I dare say this is the closest he's ever come, and yet somehow the record books will show fourth.
Yeah,
Um, on the flip side of that, yeah, you've got with that McLaren, you've got one good, one bad, one good, one bad. It was a very topsy turvy day for them. Christian Lundgaard comes out of Soncio as a winner, first time for Aaron McLaren, finishes down in 17th. Never really looked like he was anywhere from qualifying onwards. Even in the whole build up, it didn't really look like there was anything. But then on the flip side of that, the driver that you were expecting to be sort of down and out gets incredibly consistent performance in back-to-back races. Nolan Siegel finishes
Nolan
11th.
Siegel.
out of
Yeah.
nowhere.
Yeah.
Just mind-boggling. And I personally think it's to do with the fact that he had a hand in helping out the weenie drivers, the hot doggers as they
Mm.
were
He
on
got a little
Friday. I
extra
think
practice. Yeah.
that was some, you never know where the advantages lie. It's all nanoseconds. That's where it's coming from.
What was he helping one specific weenie or
I think
do you
so. I
remember?
cannot remember off the top of my head which one it was,
Okay.
but because I think it was him, Stingray Rob, and one other driver were principally involved in helping in whatever way they could. And Stingray Rob, he didn't crash where other drivers did, so maybe that was his advantage that he gained from that. He learned how to overcome that difficulty from the hot doggers. We don't know. If Ryan Hunter-Ray had done that, maybe he would have finished.
Oh boy, yeah, rough day for him. Bringing out that first caution of the day, finishing 32nd. It's a pretty tough hit. It looked like, even in the
Hmm.
replays. Um, it he looked like he was going to save it, and it just,
Then he didn't.
uh, yeah. So,
It
well, as long
was.
if you're going to wreck one
He
of the
was saying he
cars,
was struggling with the car for the majority of the race up to that point as well. So
yeah,
I'm really curious as to about what happened between, Carb Day, Friday, and or Fast Friday, whatever the heck it's called these days. I forget. There's so many names. And Sunday to have the car just be not to his liking because you would have thought you'd heard about it before then.
yeah. I it um it was just a weird thing, like, with Catherine Legg, kind of. I thought for certain in the replays Catherine was going to plow into him. I'm
Hmm.
glad that she spun. I don't. I'm
I know
I'm
what you
not
mean.
glad she spun, but I'm glad that she spun to avoid hitting Ryan Hunter-Ray, because that could have been a way worse incident.
Hmm.
And we could have had a lot different conversation had she not done that. So to her credit, it's the best kind of crash that you can have.
I was going to say, we might as well talk about it now. 'Cause I was going to say later, it's kind of the most selfless way you can take yourself out of a race, because
Yeah,
your options being you're either going to plow into another driver at God knows what speed, or you swerve and hope you can save it, but at that speed, good luck,
yeah,
and it wasn't going to happen. So it's sort of yeah, you don't want to crash out of a race, but if you have
yeah.
to, at least it's. I wrote in down for a piece that I wrote about the 500. It's sort of, everyone so badly wants to finish and win this race, but it was both an example of going, yeah, but it's not worth the risk of potentially injuring or worse with either yourself or one of your opponents. It was a moment where in that snapshot you go, there is something bigger at play here. This isn't just about me in this instance, and I'm unfortunately going to have to sacrifice myself so I don't make this situation even worse.
Yeah. The interesting statistic that I found for Ryan Hunter-Ray, that was the first time he had hit the wall in
Mm.
Indianapolis in 16 years.
And you have to
So,
choose this time to do it, honestly.
yeah, yeah, maybe his time was up. It was just time for him to kiss the concrete just a little bit. So,
Not a fan.
down, yeah, it was. Uh, one other thing I'd point out with in regards to award, he recognizes that him and Malukas are locked in a battle of life to win at the Indy 500. He knows that that's who his main competitor is for winning this race.
It'd be
He called it
devastating
out
if
in his
neither
victory
one of them ever
speech.
managed it.
Yeah. Oh, I
I'll say it.
both of them are deserving, but both of them also know that, we have a saying here that the speedway picks the winner,
Yeah, Castro knows. Yeah, I was about to say
and
he's the one that coined the whole thing. I'm
yeah,
starting to believe him.
yeah, and so um, uh, it, maybe it doesn't come for either one of them. We just don't know, and we'll have to wait a whole 365 days to figure it out. Andretti Global, oof. I mean, we talked about it before ad nauseum on this channel.
I was
Uh,
hoping we weren't going to have to talk about it after.
yeah. probably a month of May that they want to forget, just compounded onto
Easily.
a season that maybe they need to forget.
What is it all
Willpower,
about?
and I don't think it was any fault of the team this time, though.
Oh yeah,
You
no
know,
one. It was
I think it
just,
was
we're
just,
talking about the track choosers who succeeds and who fails here. The
yeah,
track just decided everyone else seems to be hating on him this year. I'll join in,
yeah,
and your car just not going to work.
yeah. Willpower, had gearbox issue. Um, that was a little confusing because it happened almost right in front of me.
Mm,
And, we're, your head's on a swivel when you're, watching a race where you see all of the straightaway and all of turn one. So you're constantly moving your head back and forth. And I look over and all of a sudden, Will Power is spinning on pit road at like 80 miles per hour. I'm like, did he just come out of the pits? I don't remember him coming out of the pits.
mm.
And I'm like, that's weird. And he had to wait for the replay and be like, oh yeah, he just was slowing down and I think with
Which
with
again,
the
kind of
amount of
glad it happened where it did in some ways because you think you've got to dip down at that point so that you can get away from the racing line and to be out of the line of fire. Because again, you're saying
right,
about what happened with Leg and under Ray. If that had happened on a different part of the track, that might have not been so easy. That could have been a lot worse of an incident than just
yeah,
pulling off to one side and retiring. That could have been a whole
yeah,
bust.
yeah. It just he the amount of fluid that came out of that car on pit lane. I mean, they dumped buckets and buckets of quick dry down on those
Mm.
puddles that were under his car. Luckily, he sensed that something was wrong and had pulled down to the inside of the track, um, and kind of mitigated the damage that fluid can cause on a track, which is a 1000 IQ racing move for sure. Because the last thing you want is to ruin somebody else's day because you're having an issue. So, yeah, unfortunate for him, finished 29th. Kyle Kirkwood and Marcus Ericsson, both of which had um, pretty nondescript days, I would say.
We saw a bit of Ericsson, it felt like, but I recall nothing of Kirkwood in the race broadcast at any point.
Yeah, other than, Kirkwood did move up 9 spots and which put him higher up in the standings for most positions gained during the race. But still
I
finishing
will use my Nolan Siegel argument that I borrowed from Will Buxton the other week that, yeah, of course that looks impressive when you start so far back. Maybe qualify a bit better.
yeah. Uh, Will Buxton just calls it as it is. But yeah, just I
I think the thing there is that, again, because I was watching some of the Andretti's behind the scenes stuff and some kind of analysis as well, not just from them, but from others. And the general consensus, because we ripped into them a bit after qualifying, and there isn't anything, I think, still fundamentally wrong with the team or the car. They just have lots of interesting issues that, when you combine them all, are then fundamental, but there isn't one. You can't just slap a plaster on it and it's fixed. They've
yeah.
got things where they're bringing in the right people. They've got, Will Buxton, Will Powers there, obviously, with all the experience he's got, and they've got all the ingredients, but they just haven't found a way to follow the recipe yet, and they don't
Yeah.
know quite which step they're not taking to cook this perfect pie.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just, they didn't have any problems on pit road, and
Which was nice.
which is nice. That's out of the usual for them. Erickson and Kirkwood both finished higher than they started.
Hmm.
And so, I feel like,
This is why it annoys me so much because you go, what is the problem?
yeah, yeah. And just, Marcus Erickson being kind of, now Indy 500 uh, royalty from being a
Hmm.
previous winner, uh, you, you kind of
Speedway's second
expect,
favorite Swede.
yeah, you kind of expect a little bit more. I'm sure I'm saying he probably expects a little bit more, say coming to this race, being like, I'm a former champion here. I should maybe do better.
One thing I did find interesting with Ericsson, this is before the race though, it was on the media day on Thursday. I was in what felt like an entire day's worth of press conference with the majority of the drivers, and Ericsson was saying about the qualifying performance of the car and how, yeah, we spent so much time building up to it and trying to get the car in this sweet spot and everything, but sometimes, it just doesn't work the way we want it to. But it's something we'll sort out for next year. And I know it's such a casual, offhanded thing, but it just gave me the implication that he already knows what he's doing next year and that he's not going anywhere, which it obviously is a contract year for him. But it was just the sort of blasé, casual way that he put it that makes me think if he isn't there next year, he doesn't know about that right now. And it makes me think that it's either he's not had those conversations yet because he knows he is there, or he's maybe too confident about his position that he wouldn't think that they would replace him. And I just thought either which way, that's going to be an interesting point to come back to in 6 months' time, maybe
Yeah.
when we hopefully know one way or the other, and go, ooh, or huh.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be I think we've talked about the team needing to shake things up even more. We've talked about Marcus Ericsson kind of being like, well, is he going to be the first one to leave,
Hmm.
not of his own accord? Maybe he's
Well,
fed up
that
and
was the
he's the
thought
one
process, yeah.
he's the one that's going to leave and be like, I got to find a better team. So
We'll wait and see.
I don't know where that seat's going to open up, but you know, previous Indy 500 winners usually don't have a very hard time finding a seat if they need one. So
True, true.
even if it just is a one-off. I mean, Ryan Hunter-Ray, we're looking at
Yeah,
you, Hilo
always part of the
Castroneves.
Andretti family, just not in IndyCar. Go
Yeah,
somewhere else for it.
yeah, yeah. Chip Ganassi Racing. I think the final numbers here do not reflect
Yeah,
how this team did overall, and I think this team, other than Meyer Shank, probably had the best day. I think. Um,
yeah, I think
you
so.
know,
I mean, you're talking about how many league changes there were, 70 in total. How many of those was Polo alone responsible for?
yeah, yeah. I mean, this team led far and away the most laps. Uh, Total. All three drivers led laps during the race. Alex Blow, as we mentioned, finished seventh. Scott Dixon finishes 15th, and Kiffin Simpson finishes 14th, which, you know,
And Dixon was leading it at the end of that, or when that first red flag came about.
right.
I don't know if
Yeah.
you saw any of the, which obviously you may have seen later, but at the time, I don't know if you saw any of the interviews with his wife going on, where she was trying to convince everyone that there was lightning in the area, that they had to stop the race, that they couldn't do anything about it. And she was the one person that didn't want the racing to resume because she was like, I've been
Yes.
waiting so long for this second one. I just want it so badly. And
Yeah.
then for him to finish in 15th is just brutal after that. Just again
Yeah.
shows the nature of this race.
Yeah. Kiffin Simpson, he started seventh, and we really were kind of like, is he going to be a dark horse in this race? I mean,
Hmm.
you're like, Kiffin Simpson's not going to be a dark horse. And then he goes out and leads four laps. You're like, okay, maybe.
We need to tweak the definition.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, okay. Yeah. So, I mean, total, I mean, how many laps of this team? I mean, Pelot led 59. Scott Dixon led 32. We mentioned Kiffin Simpson leading four. So, you know, uh,
It's mad that
yeah,
Dixon, I think, said either
96
in
laps.
the
Yeah.
banquet or before then, he's really great at leading laps. He just sucks at leading the last one.
At the last one. Exactly. Yeah. And, um, you don't want to ever think that a driver's past his prime, but, you know, at what point does he think maybe it's time to hang it up? Maybe that one victory at the 500 is going to be the only one that I'm going to ever have.
I
But
think the 500 is different from the rest of the season, though. Everyone, this is the reason we get the one shots, right? They always come back because they think, oh, I can do it one more time. I'm not too old for this yet. I can fit one more in. That's why
yeah,
Taku keeps coming back, right? He's
yeah.
like, I've got unfinished business. So I
Castroneves
think,
keeps coming back. Carpenter
yeah,
keeps coming
I'll get
back. Yeah,
Castroneves technically gets the fifth here that he's been searching for, just not in the
yeah,
way that he was maybe hoping for.
that's right.
Um, but yeah, I think the rest of the season, I'll still be surprised if Dixon doesn't win a race this year. I think he still shows that he's got enough speed that in the right circumstances he can
Mhm.
be there. And I think we've got at least one more full season of him.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing, another record that was broken this weekend was Scott Dixon's now led 709 laps at the 500, which is all-time record now. So
And not the ratio to wins that you want
definitely
with
not. You
laps led.
figure, he passed A.J. Foyt
Mm,
for most laps led, but you look at it, okay, well, on paper, A.J. Foyt had 35 8,500s that he ran to get to his mark of 692, I think was the previous mark that he had. But he had four victories to
mm.
show for it. So, so yeah, lopsided statistic, but like we mentioned, he's crap at leading the last one.
Who isn't crappily in the last one though? Just kind of. This works as a segue. I'm going to use it. Meyer Shank Racing, Felix Rosenqvist. First for
Nice,
him, Armstrong
nice
fifth.
segue.
Castro
Yeah,
Neves, not that he wanted in some respects, but he still think he's walking away with very mixed feelings. Uh, 25th, but essentially doesn't finish due to, I think, mechanical issue in the end. We didn't really see anything of
yeah,
what happened to him because there's so much else going on. But when I said, and I'm not sure, I'm gonna have to go back and look at when I first said this, but when I said that they're gonna be a dark horse this year, I didn't think they'd be this much of a dark horse.
yeah.
That was a hell of a way to turn up.
Yes, yes. Both drivers being there at the end, with
Yeah.
Armstrong finishing fifth, was leading late in the race. Um, and on that restart with I just
For those just listening, he put his head in his hands there.
yeah, the the way that last lap played out, it just you couldn't write it that way.
No.
And for him to go from the lead to fifth in one stroke of a pen.
In 2 miles.
Yeah. And to be racing your teammate and eventual winner side by side for three-quarters of a lap. I mean,
And coming out of that final corner essentially side by side with him still.
yeah. Just
But at that point, you're maybe third at worst, and then you don't even
yeah.
get that.
Yeah.
Oh,
In listening to interviews with Armstrong after the race, I could kind of sense that he was maybe a little upset with Rosenqvist pushing him like that. But hey,
it's
man, it's
racing.
it's the last lap of the Indy 500. I mean,
All
it,
bets are
it,
off at that
it,
point.
it if you're going to be upset that you got raced hard, regardless if it was a teammate or not,
I was going to say, if it wasn't Rosenqvist, it'd be someone else, right?
yeah, right,
No,
exactly, yeah. And so, and ultimately, it was somebody else. I mean, our Award and
it's two someone
McLaughlin,
else's.
yeah, yeah. And so, it was fifth is nothing for him to be ashamed of. I mean, he started
No.
16th,
I
and
think if you told him at the start that you're finishing fifth, he'd have taken it. I think it's just the way that it came about. You're leading
yeah,
into a final
if you'd have
lap
told him
shootout.
before the race that you're gonna finish fifth, and that's all you said, I'm sure he'd be really happy with that. But if you'd have
Hmm.
told him how he was gonna finish fifth,
This is one
he'd
of those
be
things where just don't
pissed.
read the fine print is what we mean when we're giving you fifth.
Just sign here. Yeah, yeah. No reason to read the fine print. Yeah, just boilerplate contract stuff, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, obviously, Rosenqvist finishing up front, winning the race.
Yeah. Because
Kester
I
Neves,
think they said previously at the early on in in the day, I don't know when they said it, but the statistic for how many people have won from the front row was it's obviously a good place to be, but they had the numbers to back it up. And then you got this sneaky Swede just behind them in fourth place, who
yeah,
looked quick all month,
yep.
and just then you couldn't leave it any later, could you really? And
Yeah,
then
it just,
gets it.
I don't want to say he flew under the radar,
Hmm.
but there
He did not
wasn't a
fly under the
whole
radar either.
there wasn't a whole lot of us that were, when we talked about,
We weren't looking at him.
practices and qualifying, and knowing he's starting on the inside of the second row, it's like you have to look at him. But I don't think anybody was really like that's my driver. That's who's going to win.
He had this kind of perception filter on him, like you can see him, but you just don't notice that he's there.
Yeah. And, forever going to be immortalized here in Indianapolis. Like I said, you're now
Hmm.
part of the track lore and uh,
It's going to be
you're
something that's talked about for decades.
yeah, absolutely. And when we had the Hornish Jr. Marco Andretti finish in 2006, yeah, we're never going to top that. But
Hmm.
then we said the same thing, 20 years
I don't know how
before
we top
that.
this though.
Yeah,
It's getting tougher.
it's going to be tough to top
We
this
need them
one.
four wide at the end with that kind of
Not
gap.
saying
Yeah.
that it won't happen, but um, at some point. But I think back to the Freedom, uh, the Indy Next race that we had here in Indy. Gosh, 10 years ago, where it was a four wide finish at the end. That might be the only way that we can ever top top the finish of this one. But I have a theory on Castro Neves
Hmm.
finishing 25th with his quote mechanical issue. I think he just knew that one of his two drivers was going to win, and he wanted to party with them. And so he pulled his car in, got out, got down to the pit stall he
I'm
needed to
getting the
be
beers
in.
out early.
So yeah, he owns part of the car. Pull it
That's
in, party all he wants. So
flip side of that though. What a brutal outing that was for Ed Carpenter Racing.
yes, oh
Technically
boy,
finishing 30th, 27th, 31st, but also they all just DNF'd.
yeah,
That
yeah,
was just, and for, Rossi's second year in a row, the car kind of screws him. After all of this, this is how that story ends this year was just such a shame. And then Rasmussen, we didn't even, I don't think we saw on the race broadcast what happened to him. He just went. And then Carpenter, again, I think you had to go and look afterwards to find it because they didn't show replays during the broadcast itself. About because you heard he was angry, but like at who, at what, why? We didn't see
yeah,
anything. It just looked like you went up by yourself. Um, but yeah, Taku of all people,
yeah,
best friends out of the car. I mean, that's a relationship that's being tested at the moment. But
yeah.
yeah, all three of them gone, and you
Yeah.
go, that's not how I saw that race going.
Well, with Rossi going out and jumping the start of the race, we mentioned it in our episode last week. We talked about his injuries, and you know, I personally was worried about you know how is he, if he's in an accident, how is he going to get out of that
Hmm.
car?
Hmm.
Is he going to be capable of making it 200 laps in that, in the condition that he was in? Um, having to be helped up onto the stage for the driver introductions and having to be
Hmm.
helped into the car. And, it's like, is he physically going to be capable of running this race and not being a moving chicane? And boy, he surprised the hell out of me. You know, right at the start of the race, taking the lead. I'm like, all right,
I think he's
by
fine.
I think he's fine. But then the car catches on fire, and you're like, he has to climb out of that car. How is he going to manage this? And just like, oh, I felt I didn't feel, I don't know how I want to say I was felt about it. Just like this was an event that I was worried would happen. And,
Hmm.
IndyCar, obviously they cleared him. They were keeping track of him all week. The doctors for the series
You'd like to
and
think that
cleared
they've
him to
done some
run.
kind of
But
practice outside of seeing eyes of
yeah,
can you get in and out
can you
and
get in and out of
how
the car? How quickly can you
no.
get in and out of the car? And most racing series do that regardless if you're injured
Hmm.
or not. And so, um, obviously he passed that test, and that's okay. Rasmussen, yeah, I mean, he just kind of was just kind of a no-show all day, I would say. Um, had a couple moves on track that um, were good. I mean, he led a couple laps, which is great for the team. If there's one silver lining to their
They're gonna
weekend,
need it.
uh, and then yeah, Carpenter. They I don't think it made the broadcast, but the closed circuit television of the at the track definitely showed the replays and uh, the uh, uh, from multiple angles, and it was definitely Takuma Sato's fault that Carpenter. It was almost like Takuma Sato was just he didn't realize he was running three wide and just came down on Carpenter, and Carpenter knew it. And as they came back around under caution, before
Well, we just see that
Carpenter,
bit,
okay, yeah, Carpenter going out there on the
but
track
we
and
just didn't have the context as to who he was
gunning
supposedly
down, yeah,
angry at.
yeah, gunning down Sato. So, um, yeah, that was uh, definitely a weekend that I don't think either one of us expected for this team. So,
No, not at all.
really expected a little bit more from them, but yeah, that's how the cookie crumbles, though. A.J Foyt Enterprises, a tough weekend with the exception of
We're,
one.
we're getting to the point of the episode where it's just tough weekends for everyone, I think, in one way or another.
Yeah, not
Yeah,
necessarily every team, but
Ferrucci
yeah,
finishes in eighth. Colette, again, classified 26th, but DNFs. Leg 33rd, but DNFs. Think Ferrucci, like you were saying, I don't see him, and this is going to be used against me at some point in the future, I'm sure, but I don't see him winning an Indy 500. But I think he's going to be consistently up there, and this was again more proof of that. So that it didn't surprise me, but it did surprise me in the sense of where's this been all year? It's nice that you showed up finally. um, Colette, man, he led the Indy 500
yeah, yeah,
and then burst into flames.
yes. Oh man, that was a hard hit. Uh,
It's
I
like, yeah,
think,
how's your day going? Great. Oh, I should. You asked me too soon.
yeah, I mean, regardless if that accident wouldn't have happened in the last 10 laps of the Indy 500, if that would have been a lap 12 incident, I think
Hmm.
that would have still been a red flag.
Yeah.
Because you had debris just strewn across
Well, you
the
saw
exit
the
of
like
turn
chunk of
two.
his car just
Yeah,
parked in the track, and you
yeah,
go,
yeah,
at least it came off clean, but damn,
yeah,
that's not good.
yeah. So I mean, a lot of people were, I don't say a lot, but I did hear grumblings on other broadcasts of uh, guys saying, oh, this red flag's manufactured, it's to bunch up the field and get the strategies together. I'm like, bro just took a hard lick and
So you
just
see the car,
left
right?
left half his car on the track while he parked it in the grass.
This
And
isn't PK Junior.
yeah,
This just happens.
yeah, I'm like, yeah, this is a deserved red flag, I feel like. But he came out virtually unscathed.
Hmm.
I think had he not crashed, he would have been a shoe-in for Rookie of the Year, based on
Oh,
his
definitely.
qualifying and where he was running at the time, and going out leading laps. And I think the group of guys that choose the Rookie of the Year probably had to take a look at that. You know, it's not always the driver that finishes the rookie driver that finishes furthest up the order
Hmm.
that gets Rookie of the Year. And so, yeah, some years it's easy. You have someone like Fernando
Yeah.
Alonso that comes in and finishes sixth, and it's like, oh yeah, you're 40 years old, but yeah, you're going to be the Rookie of the Year. And so,
Oh, get some of the young
uh,
driver tests.
yeah. Um, so I mean, he had an amazing race going for a rookie and not having a lot of oval experience, and so um, I, that 26th place finish does not indicate how
No,
his race went. Um, with Ferrucci, I don't want to say his time isn't going to come, but
that's right. I've
you
already
know,
said it.
we were talking before the episode about comparisons between him and Tim Horn, um, who Ferrucci is on the same trajectory of, I think, as far as drivers with top tens with zero wins. And so I would really feel bad for him if he doesn't ever get it because he's such a fan favorite there. But we
I
only
think
get
it's going
one
to be one of
winner a
those things that
year.
whenever he hangs up the helmet many years from now, you'll look at the 500s, and if he hasn't won any of them, you'll just go, "Wow, how deserving were the winners of all the ones that he didn't win?" And you'll kind of hopefully go, "Well, all things considered, you can't complain too much because at least they all, no one kind of was undeserving of it." So yeah, there's always going to be 32 odd losers of that
Yep.
race, So it's just like you say, it's just the way it goes sometimes.
He sometime he might go down in history as the greatest loser of the Indy 500. Or it could be a Ward, it could be Malukas, who knows?
You were desperately hoping it's not Malukas.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, with Catherine Legg, just to touch on her, um, made it to Charlotte in
Yeah,
plenty of time for the for
I'd
the
say
Coke
silver lining.
600, which also didn't run 600 miles. It was rain
Mm.
shortened. We only got it's a 400 lap race, and we got 376 laps in, I think. So
And she had
almost
issues
there.
there as well, so it
Yeah,
just wasn't her
yeah,
day. But I
yeah.
think, as I said, coming into the weekend, regardless of how it goes, she's made history in one way or another. And
Mm,
again,
yeah,
a little bit like the 24 hours in the Nürburgring where you had the what was it, the Dacia there. It's not necessarily about the winning. It's just about the
yeah,
I've turned up and giving it a go, and
yeah,
that's sometimes that's enough of the
right.
story in itself. A little bit like Jacob Abel, he's the flip side of that. He
Yeah,
has this fun trajectory from last year to this of missing out and then gets in this time, and we were saying we don't expect much of anything from it. It'd just be nice if he finishes, and he did, and it's
yeah.
like that's sometimes that's enough.
Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing. Um,
Easy for you to say.
yeah, right. This was about what I expected from this team.
Hmm.
I don't have a lot of notes. I just,
No, that's fair. I don't know if there's much to say about it. I think, with the exception of Rahal, everyone finished maybe where I expected them to. I think I've expected too much now from Rahal after his recent performances.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, Foster was weirdly happy with 21st. I'm not so sure why. So on the one hand, yeah, I guess you finished and that's great and everything, like we were just saying, but he's a driver where I'd maybe expect a bit more progression, not necessarily loads, but just more than where he started. Sato sneaking into the top 10 sort of makes sense and is funny when you consider the Ed Carpenter-ness of the situation.
yeah,
Um, and then Schumacher, I know we are having this conversation earlier about Colette being like a good contender for the rookie of the year or rookie of the Indy 500, but I'll take it however I can get it. So make Schumacher's rookie of the Indy 500. I'm happy. I'm good. We can move on.
yeah. Mick was up. He moved up 9 spots as
Moved up. He
well,
kept it clean.
and
He
he kept it
finished.
clean. Foster finished Foster's the only driver that finished where he started. So
Which I don't know if that again. I don't know if that's good or not.
yeah, Ray Hall, he moved up 8 positions. So I mean, all the drivers had decent drives. None of them led any laps, I don't believe.
No.
But it's kind of funny when we have a race with like this with so much passing up front, we're using that as a gauge on whether or not you had a good race or not. Did you lead any laps in the Indy 500? Well, a third of the field did.
Over
Why
a
didn't
third.
you? Over a third, yeah. So yeah, I think this is you know, compared to other teams and kind of
They
their
did better than
trajectory.
ECR.
They did better than ECR. I think you could say they did better than AJ Foyt collectively.
Yeah, I'd say
All four
collectively,
cars
yeah.
coming home where, you only had one out of the three at
Well, I
AJ
was gonna say,
Foyt.
out of all of the teams, they're one of the not one of the few I don't want to say, but with that number of drivers, like, it's obviously easier for Abel Motorsports, Dreyer and Reinbold to get all of your cars to finish because you've only got one or two, but they had
Right.
four and they got them all
And
home.
they all got home. Yeah.
that's tricky.
Yeah. Dale Coyne Racing. Um, Dennis Hauger finishing 19th and Roman Grosjean bringing home top 10, finishing ninth.
Yeah, finished in the opposite kind of positions from where I expected them to be. I thought if anything, it'd be Hauger in P9 and Grosjean in P19. So I've no idea how that happened, but yeah, great day for Grosjean, really.
For both drivers. I mean,
Yeah, I can say
19th, you know,
from where Hauger started, I suppose.
first car one lap down for Dennis Hauger, finishing 19th doesn't sound great, but realizing he started 29th,
Yeah,
that's
and it's his
a
first
big move for him
500.
in his first 500. Roman Grosjean, you know, led laps. I mean, great for this team, this organization. He was in those 13 guys that got to lead laps. So,
It'd be one of
um,
those fun highlight reels at the end of the season where you go about, Hauger's qualifying in St. Pete's, then his spin in Phoenix, and then
right.
you have Grosjean here leading the Indy 500. Like, at points, we were weirdly up there.
Yeah. Yep. And strategy played a lot into that, obviously.
Hmm.
Uh, I really liked the split strategy that we saw teams go with, and ultimately it made for a super exciting finish.
Hmm.
Best last cycle, I think, in any 500. Um, and Roman Grosjean was within sniffing distance of win. We
I was
talked
gonna say,
about
you're
something
saying
happened up
earlier
front.
about if something happened, the first seven odd are all wiped out. He's then
Yeah,
second.
yeah. I mean, he was 2 seconds behind Rosenqvist.
Nah,
That's it. Yeah.
nah,
And
nah.
so, uh, great for this little team to have not only a top 10 finish, but have Hauger finish up as many positions as he did. I think this is a real positive for this team.
Definitely.
Juncos Hollinger Racing. Honestly, I think this is a pretty good day for them as well.
I was gonna say pretty positive, yeah.
Yeah. Renus VK finishes sixth after starting 11th. He was kind of one of those dark horse drivers we
I
talked
didn't
about.
expect him to finish that high up. We were saying I'll just be happy if he's in the top 10, but not expecting, it to be anywhere other than like 10th.
Yeah.
So for him
Uh,
to get up there, to finish ahead of Palou,
yeah. And Stingray Rob, finishing 23rd, which,
for him is quite good.
he was we'll say the also ran, after
Mm,
qualifying, because he qualified 33rd and then got
mm.
bumped, down to 31st starting position after some technical difficulties, we'll call it, and by other teams. But um, yeah, for him to one lap down, up 8 positions from where he started, I think a solid day for him as well.
Yeah, it's a weirdly positive thing to say about both drivers. I'm quite happy
Yeah,
with it. So
yeah,
it's, helped some bit by the DNFs on Rob's front, but again, much with these kind of races, you've got to be in it to win it. And if you were going to put bets on which drivers would crash out or would retire for one reason or another, you wouldn't be surprised seeing his name on there a lot of the times for him to finish and get decent, not be like dead last.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I
Yeah.
still don't think enough to save him for next season, but we'll take it.
I,
I'll let that
I
one go
I
for this race.
I don't know why we keep talking about Renus VK like it's a big surprise though. Like I feel like more often than not that we're like, oh yeah, we're kind of surprised that he finished in sixth place. Like we shouldn't be surprised he finished in sixth place. I mean,
It's this
he
weird
shows
thing
us
with him, isn't
every
it?
year that he deserves a better ride and has these more often than not flashes of brilliance where you're like, oh yeah, he deserves to be in a better
I
car
think it's
than
because
goes
it's
on.
those flashes of brilliance between, like, he's outdriving the machinery, but then there's just enough of a gap between his flashes of brilliance where he doesn't do well because of the machinery a lot of
Yeah,
the time, or the strategy or whatever, that you then get surprised by it the next time it
yeah,
happens again.
yeah,
And
right.
then you remind yourself, oh no, actually he is quite good.
Yeah. Abel Motorsports, the little team that could
And did.
and did. Yeah, Jacob Abel, after missing, last year's 500, um, qualified 30th or started 30th,
Hmm.
um, and finished 24th. You know,
And
it
I know we've
was
talked a lot about what the future for this team has. in potential in returning, but I also think that, for argument's sake, if this team and this driver never came back again, it's a neat little story. You go from being that close last year to having
Mhm.
to sit on the sidelines after years of watching it from the
Mhm.
stands, as a
Yeah.
fan, to then get in there, qualify decent considering, and then have just a clean race, survive to the end, and finish. Going back to what we were saying about leg earlier, it's sometimes it's just showing that you can just, you don't have to have the best team. You've got an Indy next team essentially working on the entire outfit,
Yeah.
and you can get there and you can go the distance and you can at least run with everyone else. It's just a neat little story in that respect, and I don't think this is going to be the last time we see him. But if it is,
Yeah.
it's not a bad little footnote to have for
I,
yourself.
I have a feeling that this is definitely a team that we will see at the 500 again next year.
Hmm.
They've got the equipment. They obviously have personnel that they can bring over from the Indy Next teams that they already manage. Um, it he managed to grab a pretty good sponsor for the car. Texas Roadhouse that was on the side pod. That's a big
Hmm.
chain. That's a big steakhouse chain here in America, and it's
And he bought out the big guns on Media Day. He bought everyone food from there to
yeah.
keep all the media
Oh,
happy on Thursday.
brother,
So
I know that you might never get a chance to taste it, but their dinner rolls, people go to Texas Roadhouse just for the rolls and the
he
cinnamon
bought them
butter.
specifically.
Yeah, the rolls and the cinnamon butter is where it's at. And if you ever
Oh,
make it
I'm
here to the
coming at
States,
some
we'll
point.
try it out.
Coming at
Yeah.
some point. We're going there. Day one.
Yeah. That and Portillo's. You're gonna go to Portillo's hot
I'm gonna
dogs.
leave
So.
you in charge of this. I'll be fat by the end of it, but I won't mind.
Trust me, I didn't get this physique by banging on salads. So, yeah, I think, this is a team that, might possibly grow. Maybe next year they bring two cars and
Hmm.
like our other Indy only team that we had with Dreyer and Reinbold.
I'd love
Um,
them to be in it full time as well. I think this is the easiest solution to my
uh,
problems.
I, I think, we're both devastated for this team. Um, you know, you for Harvey and me for Daly. Uh,
Yeah. For both, for me, I think really. I mean, I know I've got my sweet spot for Harvey, but that's just because everyone else is just so focused on Taylor. Like Harvey's also here and he's doing really well. I think we just need to find a way to get this team permanently on the grid. It's this easy solution instead of trying to find them seats
just break
with
out
other
the
teams. Just
checkbook, right?
bring the whole
Yeah.
team. Yeah,
Let's put on the
exactly.
Amex. Yeah.
Um, you know, you can get away with it a lot financially these days. Let's leave it there. Let's just
Yeah.
let's just finance it how we can and worry about the consequences later.
Yeah. Daly finishing 12th and Harvey finishing 22nd, a lap down. Um, you know,
Again, not representative of the races
not
that they
representative for the races they ran. Harvey finished, he started last
ran.
and
Hmm.
made solid moves early in the race. I think uh, strategy wise, I think they tried something different, which when you're starting last in the 500, obviously
You don't have to lose
you,
one.
you have to try something. Um, and so, it just didn't work out for him. Connor Daly finishing 12th after leading laps. And I
And
cannot
overcame to the lead
recall.
on multiple occasions to the roar of the crowd every time.
Yeah, I can't remember a time in recent memory when the crowd cheered that loud.
Hmm.
When Connor Daly took the lead going into one right there in front of us, I mean, that crowd erupted. I mean, just um, the energy in that crowd, you thought it was the last lap. And now the crowd did cheer louder at the end of the race because of the finish. But yeah, when he took that check or when he took the lead, um, the crowd just went absolutely nuts.
If you could only have one winner for the Indy 500 between Connor Daly and David Malukas, who would you choose?
Oh boy. Oh shit. Oh,
I've done it, ladies and gentlemen. I've broken Nate.
you broke me.
Took me a couple of
Um,
seasons, but I got there.
if only one of them could win,
Hmm.
I think I'd have to pick Daly.
Mm.
And my reasoning behind that is because this being the one-off, Indy only, Indianapolis-based team, Daly's connection with the speedway, his family's connection, his dad's connection, his stepdad's connection, and kind of being the local kid. It's
Mm.
been so long since we've had a local person win the 500, what, 70, 80 years at this point since Indianapolis native has won the 500.
Turning into the
Um,
new moniker.
I think it would be something they would make a movie out of. If David Malukas
Yeah.
wins the 500, he's going to have championships and a bunch of other wins by the end of his career. That's not going to. It would just kind of be a chapter in a story for him. Where with Daly and Dreyer and Reinbold, if they were to win the 500, that would have been they would make a movie the
I'll say
next
the next
year.
bit is slightly tongue in cheek then. If it helps, Malukas can finish second in that circumstance.
There we go. I would accept that. I would accept that. One fun thing that came out Monday morning after the race, of course,
Mm.
here, Memorial Day, pretty much everything is closed.
Yeah.
Gas stations are open, restaurants are open, hardware stores are open, but that's about it. Most of your other service industry things are closed. Banks are closed. Unfortunately for
Dry
Connor
cleaners.
Daly, the dry cleaners are closed, and he only his one and only suit. He lives here in Indianapolis. He could have just gone home and
Mm.
gotten another suit, but he only owns the one suit, and it was locked inside the dry cleaners. And so he
I did
sent out
love
a
that.
tweet Monday morning saying, "Hey, I need to get in touch with Tide Cleaners on uh, downtown and get my suit out." And so uh, social media here in Indianapolis answered the call. I mean, it made the morning news broadcasts here that his suit was locked inside the dry cleaners. So
Slow news day.
we had a lot to talk about. But Connor Daly, his personality, like we mentioned before, his personality is going to keep him in this sport long after he is done racing, whether
Mm.
that is in broadcasting or working at the speedway or working for a team,
All of the above.
all the
Could easily
above,
see.
yeah. I mean, he is, and we talk about large personalities with like Castro Neves and
Mm.
um, Scott Dixon and these guys that give great interviews every time you stick a microphone in their face. And he tops them all. And unfortunately, we only get to see him for one race this season. So,
What he
so
said is
I,
on the in the press junket on Thursday, it's like, what are your plans for next week? Like, well, back on the unemployment line.
yeah, exactly right. Yeah. And honestly, I think Fox would be silly not to at least
Mm.
approach him and be like, hey, you want to come to Detroit next week and see what it's
Yeah.
like from Jack Harvey's point of view?
I'd say you get Jack Harvey and Connor Daly whilst they're waiting for that team to materialize and give them seats to do joint kind of pit or pit lane and grid walks. That's you sorted. You just have the two of them for that. That's
Yeah.
all you need.
Yeah. Well, that wraps up the team by team analysis. It's time to give out the hot, not, and hard luck awards for the Indy 500. And you took a page out of my book, and
Went rogue.
you couldn't pick just one. Who's your hot
No.
lineup? We'll call it.
Yeah, it's everyone would be saying David Malukas or Felix Rosenqvist, and understandably so, and nothing to take away from them. But there were so many storylines that we've just been talking about, right? That deserve more attention. So I couldn't pick one, I couldn't pick two, so I went with three. Went for Scott McLaughlin, Renus V. Kin, and most bizarre of all, Nolan Siegel.
Yeah, I saw your list when I was prepping for the show, and I was like, it's an odd three to pick, but I don't know if we'll ever have those three names together again in any
I will be
context.
surprised.
Yeah. Um, I can agree with you on all three of those. Um, I think, with McLaughlin coming off of last year's 500, to
Mm,
come back and finish third, probably feels like a victory for him. And Rinus VK kind of being that dark horse that we weren't expecting, but we should have. We always should have. And Nolan Siegel having the finish he had, with finishing 11th. I mean, none of us expected that at all. For me, it seems kind of counterintuitive, for what this award is really for, but I'm going with Marcus Armstrong.
it's our show. We make the rules. It's fine.
Yeah. You know, leading the race going into the final restart and or coming out of the red flag and with just a few laps left to go, and to run as strong as he did for this little team that could with Meyer Shank, and then
Mm,
still come home fifth and have to watch your teammate win the race. I wrestled with giving him the hard luck award. He was either going
mm.
to be my hot driver or my hard luck, and I'm going with the hot driver here. I think he's going to be able to look back, and we're a couple days removed now, and I'm sure he can look back and be like, the drivers often talk about, what could I have done different? What could I have done? He was on that alternate strategy as well. He had older tires. There really wasn't a whole lot he could do. And fifth place is a great finish still for this for the
Yeah,
500. So, yeah, I'm giving him the hot award. Um, for me though, the not hot award, I'm giving it to Joseph Newgarden.
well, this
Uh,
is harsh.
yeah, to have a car that was that good and being able to, not having the best starting position, but then be able to work your way up towards the front and kind of be in the frame for good sections of
Mm.
the race, and then to do something silly like dip your tires too low on a restart and wad the car up in turn four. Like, that's a bonehead move. I can't say anything more about it. He just kind of a tale of a season summed up in one move, I think.
I went for Carl Kirkwood because even though Newgarden was in a position to try and do something, Kirkwood never really looked like he was. And for me to be able to say that about Carl Kirkwood is not something I want to be able to say
Yeah,
about Carl Kirkwood. Yeah, like I said, yeah, sure, he moved up spots, but it's the least you expect from a driver of his caliber for him to then still finish all the way down where he did. Just, yeah, not hot, not
yeah.
hot.
So who are we giving the hard luck to?
Catherine Lake for me, just because of the reasons that we talked about earlier. It's kind of you're presented with two terrible options. It's either potentially seriously injure or worse a fellow competitor by plowing into him at 200 plus miles an hour, or take yourself out of the race in the one kind of biggest day of your life so far, where you're attempting to make history one way or another. Okay, she still made history, but it's not the way we wanted it to go. And for her to be out so soon into the proceedings as well was brutal, and yeah, not a choice you want to have as a driver.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a tough day for her. I know, going into the month and picking up that ride uh, at AJ Foyt, and then all of a sudden we're like, oh, she's going to do the double. Like, oh, okay. And
Mm.
then for this series of events to happen, it's like,
It's a little bit
I
like Rossi,
felt,
you
yeah,
have this build up for so long and
yeah,
then it just peters out and you go,
yeah, yeah. For me, I'm definitely giving hard luck to Ed Carpenter, and how much the speedway means to him and his family. Obviously, that family owned the speedway for, you know, 70 years before, Penske bought it. And you know, he I don't want to say that he's past his prime because I don't know if we ever saw an Ed Carpenter prime, but But
Well, backhanded compliment.
yeah, but at some point you got to be like, well, maybe it's time that I use this third car for somebody else in the 500. But
I think Connor
yeah,
Daly's pretty good, or that Jack Harvey. That's all I'm
yeah,
saying.
yeah. We we saw a little bit of a shakeup in the point standings.
Not as much as I
With
thought it would,
Yeah,
but
but
a shake up nonetheless.
yeah, David Malukas moves into third. Obviously, with Kyle Kirkwood's finish, it wasn't hard to leapfrog him. David Malukas now only 37 points behind Alex Palou in the point standings.
In second, no, I'm not third.
Oh, yeah, he leapfrogged. Yeah, Kirkwood's now in third. Yes, yes,
Yeah,
correct. Um, so 37 points at this point in the season is about where we were last season, I feel like. And we're like, all right, it's
let's try this again.
time to put it to him. David Malukas, you know, still doesn't have a win. You know, are you going to be able to take the fight to Alex Palou without a win?
Not
Absolutely
for lack of
not.
trying.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to do it. He's going to have to get that first win if he's going
Hmm.
to have any fight anywhere towards the second half of the season with Alex Palou.
It's either that or about to witness something incredible where even with all these wins, Malukas somehow beats Pillow without scoring any.
I
That would
did
be
run
something.
I did run through that scenario on the drive in to the office this morning. I'm like how what would have to happen? I mean, Plo, if he had two or three DNFs and Malukas ran off two or three top tens in a row, that would give Malukas a pretty solid lead at that point.
Hmm.
But one that wouldn't be insurmountable if Plo did what Plo does and rattle off a series of a couple wins in a row, and delete that. So it's weird that we're talking about this type of scenario. I don't know if we've ever had a situation like this where somebody with no career wins is trying to chase down the championship leader.
Hmm.
But uh,
I rule nothing out at this
it
point.
it's going to make for a really interesting mid part of the season, I think.
Hmm.
You know, the next couple races are going to be the ones that decide, all right, are we going to be crowning Pelot the champion, three or four races ahead of time? Or
Or is this
are we going
going
to
down
be
to the
like,
wire?
are we going to be talking like, okay, we've got a fight on our hands. So,
And then come season end, what a comeback for Will Power. To take the championship from both of them, I was not expecting that.
yeah. So rolling through the laps led by driver. We only have four full-time drivers that have not led laps this season. Believe it or
I'm
not.
guessing Stingray Rob is one of them.
Stingray Rob is one of them. Any guesses on the other three?
Got a bad feeling Nick is one of them.
Mika Schumacher is
Uh,
one of them. Yep. Two for two.
Um, full-time drivers who we got. BK?
Nope. VK's
He's
got
led.
he's got 8 laps led. All of those were in the Indy 500.
Damn. I'm not sure of that. Foster, I guess, would be one of them.
Foster's got two.
He's okay. You're just going to put me out of my misery. I don't know because I'm just thinking everyone else must have. Siegel?
Siegel is three. Yep.
Okay, tell me the fourth.
The,
I'm not
the,
going to
the
get the fourth.
fourth
I
one you're
know
not
that
going to
much.
get. I'll give it to you. Santino Ferrucci.
Ah, see, I was thinking. I thought I don't remember him, but surely he would have.
Yep.
Even if only for like a lap or two. If Foster's got 2 laps, then surely Bruce's got at least one.
Yeah. No. So yeah, we've only got four more drivers that need to lead laps. We got a whole lot of races left this season.
We can do that in Detroit, no problem.
Yeah.
There's enough smash, bash, and wallop that can happen there for that kind of circumstance to present itself.
Just to real quick, just to go back to Catherine Legge doing the double. We talked
Hmm.
about, who's going to be the next person to attempt the double. And I don't know if you saw this, but Monday, Lando Norris made a detour from Canada down to Indianapolis. Oh, you're shaking your head. You're kind of rolling your eyes. What was that about?
I don't need that.
You don't need that?
No. short version. I don't need that. I'd
Uh,
rather someone from IndyCar or NASCAR did that,
well,
or someone else from F1. I don't
we
need that from Lando.
we have a lot of great F1 drivers that come here and
Yeah,
attempt the 500. Now,
I'd rather with
if
someone else.
it probably is a lot harder to skip the Canadian Grand Prix
Not with how he
than
did this time around. I mean,
with
McLaren balls that up pretty well for
yeah
themselves. So if they just
yeah
take that kind of strategy,
yeah
then it should be fine for him to come and do that.
uh, yeah. I think it was probably easier for the drivers to want to skip Monaco when Monaco was the morning of the 500 because let's face it. I mean, Monaco is a beautiful course, but it's probably the worst race of the year. Where you qualify is where you're going to finish.
We'll have words about that sort of thing, but I think the prestige that comes with that, though, because it's still part of the Triple Crown and because
Yeah,
it's still
true.
Monaco,
Yeah,
I don't think you'd have an F1 driver skipping it for the Indy 500 unless you're Alonso.
Alonso, uh, Rubens Barrichello comes to mind as
Mm.
well.
Again, there's plenty of ex F1 drivers who I'd love to come and do it. You know, I think about he's still I think he said he's terrified of the prospect, but you know, David Coulthard, he still keeps in decent shape. That would just be fun to see. Ricardo is obviously there this weekend. Mark Webber, I think it would be great fun to get him in on something like that. You know, these kind of drivers that are still semi-active, but they haven't done
Daniel
anything.
Ricciardo would be a fun one to have in IndyCar. I'd love to have a full
I think as
season
well
with
for a
him.
double as well. Him because with his personality would fit into NASCAR well as well. I
Yeah,
think
it
it'd be fun
would.
to get him in there just to see what would happen. Him and
Yep.
Daly in a team trying to do the double together.
Oh, that would be fun. We also
I've
had
got nothing else to say in this podcast. I can't better that.
yeah, Carson Hocevar, we did have at the track last week.
Hmm.
He was here scoping things out, and I think you mentioned NASCAR drivers coming over and attempting it. I think he would be a strong candidate for the next driver to step up and attempt the
Hmm.
double.
Can live with those.
Or Daniel Ricciardo.
Those
Yeah,
two
yeah, like
prospects.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that wraps up the month of May. And I mean, if you, like I said, if you weren't entertained by what you saw this month in Indianapolis,
You need to go
maybe
get your head checked.
you need to maybe go watch drag racing or something. I don't know, but
You need to go home and reassess your life.
yeah, exactly. We don't get much of a break. We've got the Detroit Grand Prix coming up this weekend.
You
Um,
say that's the end of month of May. No, it's not. We still got 22,
yeah,
which is
golly,
in May still.
is it
Yeah.
really?
Uh, yeah.
Is that oh, that is the last day of the
The
month? Oh my
very,
gosh, yeah.
very end.
This is this month is going to kill us. So let's just take a quick peek at who our previous winners were. Um, let's see. Well, we got a good number of drivers here. Of course, Kyle Kirkwood won last year.
Hmm.
Scott Dixon won in 24. Um, so those
Fine,
are
fine.
the two drivers that have won on the streets of Detroit. The other winners were all our old Belle Isle
Hmm.
friends. Alex Palou in 23, Will Power in 22, uh, Pat O'Ward, Marcus Erickson, Joseph Newgarden, Scott Dixon, Graham Rahal, 2017,
We got good contenders
Will
there, I like it.
Power, Will Power, uh, Castro,
If it's any of those, I will be happy. You know, I think
yeah,
we're in for a time with it.
yeah. I love we gave that double pit lane some shit when they first introduced it, but it's kind of growing on me. So I'm
Let's
looking
hope,
forward
yeah.
to it. Yeah, it's growing on me, and I'm looking forward to it. So we will see everybody next week for our recap from Detroit.